Hey, I got a great idea early this morning.
I know. I heard you roaming around outside. The neighbors are going to call the cops.
And my neighbors call the cops. I'll run my neighbors in. Anyway, the idea might involve me going out to California next week.
Oh? You suppose that might involve my going out to California, too?
Does a wise prince take sand to the desert?
I don't know. If I meet a wise prince while you're gone, I'll ask him.
What's he doing now, Doctor?
Nothing. That's one of the more interesting aspects of his neurosis.
He doesn't mew or meow, if you prefer.
He doesn't scratch rough surfaces, and he doesn't make a mess to display his anger.
Well, then it's this lack of normal cat behavior that lets you know he's disturbed.
Exactly, exactly.
How are you treating him?
I'm waiting him out.
I'll buy that. Well, America, if your cat goes into a sudden deep depression, remember, there is a man who can fix him. And you saw him right here on the early morning show.
Next week, the network's showing 5 films. The 5 from the 50s retrospective. Well, I was looking at the cast list last night. There's one actress that was in 3 of those 5 films. Carolyn Parker.
Carolyn Parker, yeah, beauty. Whatever happened to Carolyn Parker?
That's just the point. Whatever did happen to her? Look, she was one of the bright new starlets of the 50s. So was Debbie Reynolds, so was Kim Novak. Whatever happened to Carolyn Parker?
And you want to go out and find her. Now, come on. She's probably happily married, got 6 kids, living someplace in the San Fernando Valley.
Yeah, she probably is. That's just the point. I'm going to go find her. I'm going to bring her back to New York. And next week, 3 mornings, you can say, ladies and gentlemen, here on the early morning show, we present the girl you just saw on the Late Late Show.
That's not bad. That's not bad.
Well, I'm sure you would have thought of it if I didn't.
You're right. She can talk about movies in the old days, contract players, nostalgia.
Yeah, I'm going to fly out the first thing Monday morning. Say, you want to stop in here a minute? Ed's checking the prints.
Look at her. You're the one that's got to find her.
I suppose you save yourself a lot of trouble that way.
I do. I think twice before I get into something.
You're getting into something right now.
Very funny.
No, it's not very funny. It's a good thing you like my face. I'd have been in a lot of trouble without you.
I only told the police what I saw, and I don't want to be rushed. I promise I won't take advantage of it.
Well, I would if it were the other way around.
No, I'm not. I've only thought about it once.
You a fast thinker?
Not right now.
Well, when you made up your mind, stop by. But not before noon.
I didn't sleep last night.
Well, go ahead and get some sleep when you left in.
Hello, Carolyn Parker.
Yes, Mr. Martin, I have your pass for personnel. And Mr. Weiler wanted to say hello also.
Really? Thank you. She made only 7 movies, all of them for this studio. Her entire film career covered a span of only 41 months. That all started right here. None of the pictures she was in cost the studio more than $1 million. But I didn't know all those things about Carolyn when I started.
Second draft is closer. I want the second draft, and I want to start casting now. You got that? Hey, Bill! Bill Martin! Hey, Norman Wilder. Welcome to California.
Thank you. I must admit, I wasn't expecting the head of the studio.
Let me tell you, any man who can be the guiding genius behind a show that can wake 3 million people at 6 o'clock in the morning is always welcome here.
Well, all the real geniuses are working for me back in New York.
As you can see, Bill, we're moving to the Valley because the rent is cheaper. And in the Hollywood calendar, this is the year of the economist. But the entire place, all of it, it's at your disposal.
Well, thank you. I thought I'd start with personnel.
Personnel is right down there. At least it was when I drove by this morning. Well, I know you want to get started, Bill. Anything you need, let me know.
Thanks very much, Norm.
Good luck. Right.
See you later.
Bye-bye. Be nice to him. He's a very important fellow.
Janet, I need the file on Carolyn Parker.
Sure. Was she talent, secretary, or what?
She was talent.
Okay, I'll get it for you in a second.
I'm sorry, Mr. Martin. They told me you were coming, but I've had people in here all week trying to figure out where to put the high-rise apartments.
So the Great Pacific General is going to be replaced by high-rise apartments, huh?
And if the traffic will bear the load, get one more car wash. It's the end of an era.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of funny. Maybe they pruned the files years ago, or else it just got mixed up in the moving. But there's no file on Carolyn Parker.
The Screen Actors Guild didn't have much more. Fading publicity still. An address on Charmaine Way in the Hollywood Hills. They'd sent her last salary check there in 1954. Her agent had apparently left the business. But as it turned out, his name and address were still in the phone book.
Yeah?
Mr. Prideaux?
Yeah?
My name is Bill Martin from the Early Morning Show in New York City. I wonder if you could help me locate a former client of yours, Carolyn Parker.
For God's sakes.
Hello?
I had an odd, almost excited feeling the first time I went to that house on Charmaine Way. It was late afternoon with the California sky still that brilliant blue that ends abruptly at nightfall. According to the Screen Actors Guild records, Carolyn lived in this house for at least 18 months, in 1953 and 54, which meant she probably leased it with an option to buy. How much had it changed from the time when it belonged to Carolyn? She must have given parties here. Maybe after her first picture. The guests would have crossed Sunset and come up into the Hollywood Hills. Then maybe she'd have hired a combo and a bartender. I wonder what Kirk Douglas would have ordered to drink. And what would Robert Mitchum have asked them to play? What must it have looked like to her? Just into her 20s with a brilliant career ahead? Did all those lights, in a way, seem to belong to her? What was it like, Carolyn? I really didn't know much about her yet. Where she was born, what kind of a childhood she had. But maybe I already had the feeling that that wasn't as important as the fact that she took Sunset over to the Macombo or Ciro's. And that when she got out of her car, the man that held open the door for her at the Trocadero might have been Clark Gable. Then I decided to try to find out why her ex-agent had hung up on me. According to the publicity stills on Carolyn, Prideaux had his offices on Sunset Boulevard in a place called the Crossroads of the World. But that was in the 50s, and it seemed he'd come a long way in the wrong direction. Mr. Prideaux?
Apparent cause of death, multiple stab wounds in the throat, upper chest.
More than 6 feet tall. He's very broad-shouldered, muscular-looking guy.
No other wounds or mutilations visible on the body. Victim fully clothed.
His hair was straight, gray.
Left wrist indicates a wristwatch is missing. Pants pockets turned inside out. No wallet, personal items visible on the body or around the bedroom.
He had this chisel features.
That's it. How you doing?
I'm all right, sir.
We can have you taken to an emergency hospital if you like.
I'll settle for a couple of aspirins and a bourbon.
I gotta know why you're here, Mr. Martin.
Well, where will I start?
Give me a lot of close-ups on the body, will you? Some with a knife?
Well, so far we know that you're an executive with the early morning show, right?
Right.
That you travel a lot? That you're good at finding people for
Frank J. Allen.
Frank J. Allen to talk to.
I came out here looking for an actress by the name of Carolyn Parker. So far, I found out that the studio where she used to work no longer has a file on her. And a house that she lived in the 50s looks like it's been vacant ever since.
I'll see you outside, Sergeant.
Right.
Earlier today, I called Tom Prideaux on the phone, and when I mentioned Carolyn Parker's name, he hung up on me.
So you decided to come out and see him yourself tonight?
Yeah, I get a lot of good ideas like that.
When you spoke to Prideaux, did he say he had information to give or to sell to you?
No, he just broke the connection.
Well, you could see the kind of neighborhood Prideaux lives in. We get robbery homicides here by drug addicts, a variety of perverts, and we have them all. The victim walks in while the robbery's in progress, gets killed. How long you intend to stay in L.A.?
Hey, listen, hon, I'm afraid I'm not going to make it back as soon as I thought.
Well, why? Is there anything wrong?
Well, no, there's nothing wrong. It's just that, well, I'm having trouble finding her, and you know how I hate to give up.
Yeah, I know. Your star was a little upset you didn't call him today.
Really? Well, we can't have the great Frank J. Allen getting upset. I'll give him a ring in the morning.
I miss you in more ways than one.
That feeling is very mutual. As a matter of fact, if you were here right now, I'd probably...
Oh, you would, huh?
Yeah.
And what makes you think I'd enjoy that?
Well, I have high hopes.
Oh, come on now. I'll never get back to sleep. I'll talk to you in the morning, huh? Love you.
I love you. Always.
Good night.
I was worried. I thought something happened to you.
Nothing ever happens to me, darling. You know that.
Come here.
Oh, don't, Carl. I'm hot. Tired. I'm going to take a shower.
there usually an awful lot more material on actors and actresses?
Right. Sometimes 3 or 4 envelopes.
Is it possible that somebody could have come in here and removed everything? And knowing they had to turn back in the folder, just left this one clipping?
Well, it's possible. Do you have any idea who or why?
No, not yet. Say, you want me to clean up this mess?
Oh, don't bother. I'll take care of it later. But listen, if you really do need more information on this girl, you might try the Hollywood Reporter and Daily Variety.
You mean go to their offices and look up the back issues?
Well, you don't have to go that far, Mr. Martin. We have both the Reporter and Variety.
Just a second.
Bright Memory production schedule. May 19th, 1954. John Paulman signs rising actress Carolyn Parker. Principal photography is scheduled to begin on the John Paulman production of Bright Memory.
Is there any way we could find out where he is now? Hopefully not in the local cemetery.
I'll call the Producers Guild.
You know you're a great gal.
You bring out the best in me.
But just a second.
What?
They never finished the picture. Bright Memory production halted. Production has been shut down. Producer John Paulman has decided against continuing, citing irreconcilable differences with the director.
Well, why didn't he just hire another director?
Yeah, that's the point. Why didn't he?
I called Paulman, who lived in the Pacific Palisades, and told him we were interested in featuring him on our show. After all, he had made his pictures and his name in the 50s. And even if he was no longer king, he had held on to the castle.
The 50s. That was a marvelous time. We'd all come back from the wars, new ideas, new concepts. What remains today are comedies of sickness, so-called love stories, without one single film frame of tenderness or warmth, and cheap sex, sold on the basis that the robots might possibly appear nude. Oh, no, I tell you, well, I'm sorry, but that's one man's opinion, an old man's opinion.
Well, I found it sad myself to visit the lot at Pacific General.
Oh, you were over there, were you?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, don't be too upset about those bulldozers. I tell you, Martin, the studios today are owned by men who acquire them like they acquire parking lots and oil leases.
Yeah.
And when the land beneath that studio becomes valuable as real estate, they ravage it like they would conquer territory.
There was one picture that you made in association with Pacific General that was never completed.
Oh, yeah. Bright Memory. Yeah. You've done your homework, haven't you?
I'm curious about Bright Memory.
Curious? What about it? I've just told you.
Well, I'm curious as to why you'd abandon production after 10 days of costly shooting. I'm curious why Carolyn Parker never made another picture after you closed down production on that one.
Yeah, well, what makes you think that the one thing had something to do with the other?
Well, I don't know. Did it?
No, of course not.
Where is that film that you shot?
In a bank vault over in Century City. Say, what are you driving at?
Sir, I'd like to see that film.
Why?
Well, if you're right about it, maybe parts of it would belong in a retrospective of the life and works of John Paulman.
Oh, well, yeah, maybe it would. Well, you can go to the bank in the morning. Banks and subsurface garages. Do you know that it used to be the back lot of 20th Century Fox?
There were a lot of things to do that afternoon. Phone calls to Paula and Frank in New York. And I wanted to talk to Sergeant Scott again. But I found myself driving down to the beach instead. After all, what was I going to tell him? That I'd talked to a producer whom Hollywood had passed by and left for dead? I wondered if on a day like this, Carolyn had taken the Pacific Coast Highway towards a beach house at Malibu, in a party that ended nearly 20 years ago. Apparently, it only became necessary to kill me after I went to Paulman's house. There'd been plenty of chances before.
Don't scratch it.
Was it something the killer thought Paulman had told me? Or was it because he'd given me permission to look at the first 10 days of shooting on a motion picture that was never finished?
Hello?
Oh, Bill, thank goodness. Where have you been?
I've been driving up the coast. What's the matter? You sound upset.
Oh, I've called about half a dozen times. I happened to glance through the trade this afternoon and... I guess I've had all this time to think about it.
Think about what?
Well, there was a small article on an ex-agent called Prideaux. He was murdered out there last night.
I found his body.
Oh, Bill, how awful.
Yeah, it was. But I'm all right now. Honey, please don't think there's any connection between Prideaux's death and the fact that he once represented Carolyn Parker.
Oh, and what do you think?
I think the police know a heck of a lot more about homicides than I do.
Well, look, sweetheart, her second picture's already been on here in New York, and, well, even if you found her now...
Yeah, I know. It's going to be too late to get her back for any of her pictures.
Well, then why don't you just come home?
I can't.
I can't. End of explanation.
Paula, I don't expect you to be able to understand this, but I've got a meeting with the woman that used to manage the studio club when Carolyn Parker lived there. And I've got a chance to see an unfinished picture that she made. Paula, I'm gonna find Carolyn Parker if she's alive. And if she's dead, I'm gonna find out how she died.
I asked for an explanation, and I guess I got one. I know how involved you get in these things. But I worry about you. I miss you. For some reason, it seems like you've been gone a long time. I guess we'll talk about it later.
Paula?
I've been rich and I've been poor. Believe me, rich is better. Did you think I was an heiress or something before I met Vince?
I didn't think about you at all.
Oh, well, you're about as romantic as a pair of handcuffs. Didn't you ever tell a girl pretty things? You know, she's got hair like the west wind, eyes like nothing cold, skin like velvet.
Why is she so important to you?
Well, for one thing, nobody seems to know what's happened to her.
What's so unusual about that? Actresses who don't work anymore, and nobody knows what's happened to them. What's happened to them is nothing.
Well, what about Sandra Clausen? She was Carolyn's roommate back in 1951 when you managed the studio club.
Ah, Sandy. She was Carolyn's best friend. I didn't know her as well as... Ah, I think we have a table for you. Sandy wasn't much of an actress, really, just sort of a studio brat.
How do you mean?
Oh, you know, her parents were extras, and her husband, she was estranged from him then, or getting a divorce. Well, he was a studio grip. The last I heard, she'd moved to San Francisco.
Could you join me for a moment?
Oh, sure. The natives are relatively quiet today. Oh, Diane?
Carolyn must have had visitors while she was living at the club. Family or boyfriends?
Oh, boyfriends, sure. How could a woman that beautiful not have boyfriends? But nobody steady. She didn't belong to anybody, if that's what you mean. Nobody paid her bills for her.
You really liked her, didn't you?
Yeah. Yeah, I did. Ah, those girls. They were all kind of sweet, really. They were all kind of touching. But Carolyn was special.
Poignant, lost, mysterious.
Yeah, that's it. And in those days, when a girl was under contract to a studio, they did things for her. Taught her how to dress, speak, groomed her for real stardom. And if they believed in a girl, they stayed with her. Now it's one shot. If a picture doesn't make $40 million, it's back to the blue jeans.
What went wrong for Carolyn?
Life, maybe. Life has a way of going wrong.
Back on work. Action.
I appreciate your offer, Lieutenant, but I'm sure the trucks for the children and myself will arrive at any time.
You are, huh? Well, suppose I told you that the trucks are already lying all over the Hancock Bridge, that the same planes who got them knocked out the bridge, too. I can get you out of here alive, now.
I'm a little busy now.
You're also a little crazy. You got a much chance of getting 50 orphan kids across those mountains.
Don't shout in a hospital, Lieutenant.
Can we get married in one?
Beautiful.
I don't know if we can get married in one, but we can sure fool around a little.
Yeah. Somebody get these kids out of here.
Boy, she was really good in this, wasn't she?
Yeah, I guess so, but I'm not used to seeing a film in bits and pieces.
That looks like most of it, gentlemen. There's some hair frills left, but from the labels, it's mostly stunt doubles for the lead Leverett and one of the heavies.
It's an interesting film, but I don't see what it has to do with solving Prideaux's murder, or for that matter, why it was necessary for anybody to try to kill you.
Yeah. Look, I might be wasting your time, Sergeant. Maybe it was just some kind of a nut that tried to drive me off into the canyon.
Want to take a look at the rest of it?
Yeah, I'd like to see it all.
Yeah, something I forgot to mention. We found Prideaux's watch in a hock shop not 15 blocks away from his apartment. We got the pawn ticket and handwriting analysis.
Are you politely trying to tell me it's time for me to catch the next plane back to New York?
On the other hand, if I were to kill somebody for one reason, one thing I might do is to take the watch, wallet, etc., hock the watch, and make it look like a simple robbery.
I just got off that plane.
What was the name of that girl from the studio club days?
Sandra Clausen.
Hey, stop! Freeze the frame right there! Sergeant, that's him. That's the man. He's 20 years younger, but the same man. That's the man that killed Tom Prideaux.
Look, buddy, you got a hangover? You got a hangover. Now, what works for you? Tomato juice with a shot of vodka in it? A little sauna with a couple of broads. Excuse me, birds. Got to keep up with the generation gap. Anyway, you just tell old John and I'll send out for it. Leave it open, Joe.
Well, all I've been able to discover so far is sort of an elusive quality about Carolyn. It's as if she came out of nowhere.
And then went back? Yeah, that was her gift, buddy. She was a girl you'd see in a polo coat at a football game. Talk to her for 5 minutes and lose her in the crowd. But remember the rest of your life.
Johnny!
Good morning, Norman. Have you met...
Yes, sit down. Yes, we met when we broke camp and crossed over Coringa Pass. How's it going, Bill?
A little painfully this morning.
I didn't come here entirely by accident. I checked with the head of the publicity department. He said you were coming here to see Johnny, and I wanted you to know we would spring Johnny almost any time for the early morning show.
Oh, thanks, but actually I'm still trying to get a line on Carolyn Parker.
Bill was just mentioning a kind of elusive quality.
Elusive. That's the word. She came, she was with us for a while, and then she left the set. Seemed almost empty. She took the magic with her.
Sometimes it was tough to play a scene with her. You know that the crew and the rest of the cast were only watching her.
Lana Turner had it. Marilyn Monroe had it.
I had it. Excuse me. Telephone call for you, Mr. Water.
Yeah, excuse me.
Remember, he was the rising young genius in the 50s. And Carolyn was part of an era that's long gone. Come on, let's get some coffee.
I'll try anything.
She was a woman. She had what I call a normal, healthy interest in sex. When she came on that lot, I'd race down to that set like a kid following a fire truck.
You mean I'm bright memory?
No. This is when she first came to the studio. In those days, stars had to play it safe, or Luella would tell. So San Francisco was the great... Well, where do you go when you don't particularly want anybody to watch?
I've always been partial to Baltimore.
Oh. Well, Carolyn and I went to San Francisco, the Fairmount, for the weekend. And I mean, it was fantastic. We went everywhere, saw everything.
Hold it right there, buddy.
And yet there was a feeling that... Oh, I'm not talking about the action. I was in top shape in those days, and Carolyn was, well, fantastic. And she didn't try to convince me I was the only one she ever caught the plane with on a Friday night. Yet I got the feeling there was something else she was looking for that I hadn't delivered.
Maybe she was looking for something a little bit more than just a Friday night.
Now, let's go a little higher.
Look, buddy, take it easy. If Carolyn and I never had a love story, it wasn't my fault. There was something else she was looking for.
You mean something that a little girl being raised by old people in Connecticut might have seen on a movie screen somewhere and thought really existed?
Yeah. Well, the dream of Hollywood always outruns the reality of Hollywood.
Oh, Mr. Martin. New York calling. You can take it on the house phone right over there, sir.
Thank you. You're welcome. Hello? Frank, I realize I can't get her back in time. I can't even say that I'm any closer to finding her now than when I first got off the plane, but...
But you don't mind spending another $4,000 or $5,000 of our money. Not to mention days on end. Look, Bill, we've got a new situation in the Middle East. We've got grand jury hearings in the federal building, and you're out there hung up on some Hollywood hotline.
I know, but if I'm right about this, Frank, I'm going to give you a show that's going to put you right into the Broadcasters Hall of Fame.
Wait a minute. Wait just a minute. Don't you try to hustle the hustler.
Would I lie to you?
Now, if you're going to get yourself killed in some place like California, I want you to know I'm going to consider it an act of personal disloyalty.
Bye.
Milton Feldman.
Martin.
Paging, Mr. Milton
Hey,
Feldman.
Sergeant, you're working late.
Well, I was on my way home, but I took a chance that you'd be in. We're doing pretty good, buddy. You might be in the wrong line of work.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, because if I don't get back to New York soon, I'm going to be out of a job and a girl. Come on, I'll buy you a drink.
No, I can't. The wife's holding supper. Listen, I just wanted to tell you that we identified the stunt man as Bruno Wallace. Born in Czechoslovakia, became a circus strongman, came to the United States after the war, worked as a stuntman and stand-in till the late 50s. After that, nothing. We put out a quiet APB on him. Should pick him up in a couple of days. Also checked out the house at 814 Charmaine Way. The realtor, a little reluctant to give up the information. But actually, the property is owned by Pacific General Studios.
Then there's a reason it's been kept vacant all these years, and somebody at that studio knows it.
Easy. I thought the same thing until I found out that Pacific General also owns all the property for 5-6 blocks around. The realtor's guess is that they're going to sell the whole hilltop for development.
Well, that's one explanation.
Come on, walk me to the car. On that other thing, Sandy Clausen was divorced from Gerald Clausen in 1953. He did work out at the studios.
Any chance we could talk to either one of them?
Well, Sandy died in San Francisco in 1954. Her ex-husband died in a car crash in Las Vegas in 1967.
Thought you said we were doing so good.
We are. They had a daughter, Patricia. You can talk to her.
When?
In about 15 minutes. All you have to do is drive down on Sunset and stop along the way. She works as a new dancer in a place called The Action. You might remember it as Ben Pollock's Dixieland.
Well, not all changes for the better.
Now, listen, if they're too busy, I can take care of this.
No. Your wife's holding supper.
First year I was in college, I hitchhiked out to California for the summer. I can remember the Strip in the 50s. Studios of photographers like Paul Hess, nightclubs like Ciro's, and there was a small intimate spot called the Cafe Gala up over the Strip where you could drop in late at night and watch an exciting young singer named Dorothy Dandridge. It was getting late in more ways than one, but the action, as it turned out, was at the end of the Strip.
take a bourbon on the rocks? A double bourbon. Is that Pat Clausen?
That's Patricia.
Would you take this note, please?
It won't do you any good.
You try.
I never met Carolyn, but she was my mother's best friend. My dad used to tell me about the days they spent together at the studio club.
You lived with your father until he died, didn't you?
Well, the last few years, I saw less and less of him. He spent a lot of time down in Vegas trying to break the casinos.
I didn't know studio grips need that kind of money.
They don't. You know, you look terrible.
Well, thank you.
I don't mean terrible in the irreparable sense of the word. I mean, you look like you haven't slept or eaten anything or fooled around or anything.
Well, you're right on all counts. How did you ever fall into this bonanza?
Well, I had the studio bug, like my mother, I guess. And I have to admit, I'm no great actress. And I went to Santa Monica City College for a while, and old Monterey Peninsula, looking for Clint Eastwood. Look, would the world come to an end if you didn't find Carolyn Parker?
No, I guess not. But I'll never know because I'm going to find her.
Get him, Tiger. You know, that Carolyn must have been some kind of a woman. Thanks, Candy. I have to go back to work. What are you going to do?
Well, first I'm going to have this drink that you bought me, and then I'm going to have a few of my own.
Are you going to be able to drive?
Probably not. I'll just grab a cab back to the hotel and pick up my car tomorrow.
Why don't you give me your car keys now, just to be on the safe side? This is the old Scott Fitzgerald territory. He used to live at the Garden of Allah when it was across the street.
You read Scott Fitzgerald?
You think I spend all my time on a stage with nothing above the waist?
Your father must have broken at least a couple of those casinos in Las Vegas.
Yeah. And, he remembered me in his will. Can I get you a drink or anything?
No.
How long are you going to be in town?
For a little while.
I like that idea. This is my place.
I know.
Well, I mean, I've always paid my own bills. I could have taken, but I never did. I never took any money, anything from them.
Who's them?
Well, the bad guys as opposed to the good guys. Good guy.
I have to know a lot more.
Well, do you have to know right now?
Yeah? I don't know what we're into, Martin, but the other side has a lot to lose.
What do you mean?
I'm over at Pat Clausen's apartment.
I just left her a couple hours ago.
Well, she had one more caller. He sent her off the balcony.
No!
Japanese gardener found her body not a half hour ago. The autopsy surgeon found both alcohol and the residue of several narcotic pills.
Well, we had a couple of drinks, but if there were any pills, then somebody forced them down her throat before she went out the window.
I think you're right. I think the killer got to her within minutes after you were gone.
You're gonna let him tap it suicide?
It's only a preliminary finding. We can't break everything we have to the newspapers. Because if we do, whoever paid Wallace to kill Prideaux and possibly Sandy's daughter then has only two choices. Hope that he sealed off the last leak, or keep on trying to get rid of you. Maybe Wallace. No. I think we'll let things slide until we got Wallace into custody. I'd like to know what the connection is between these murders and the attempt on your life.
Well, if I'm right, they're to cover up a murder that happened almost 20 years ago.
Flight 613 now arriving from Las Vegas at gate 37.
I called you last night.
Yes, I know. I got the message. I was having dinner with some friends. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm at the airport.
Oh, hey, beautiful. What's the flight number, or where are you coming in at?
I'm flying up to San Francisco.
Oh? Does that have anything to do with the girl that went out the window after you took her home last night?
Yeah. My mother died in San Francisco. What's it like in New York?
It's cold and it's rainy.
Oh, honey, I wish I were coming back to you.
I'm sure you do.
Look, I can't expect you to understand this because I'm not even sure I understand it myself. I just don't seem to have any other way to go.
Bill, what's wrong?
A lot of things.
Are you in danger?
Yeah, maybe.
Well, then why don't you just get on a different plane and come home?
Well, I'm not sure that would change anything.
I'd like to share whatever it is. Bill? Did you hear what I said?
Yeah. I sure wish I could, honey.
Well, I wish you could, too, because I love you. And I have an odd feeling that I'm losing you. I don't even know to what or whom. Look, I can't talk anymore. I'm sorry.
Paula?
I had a feeling that maybe I'd already lost Paula. But I wasn't able to do much about it then because this is where Carolyn had gone.
Flight 537, the California Commuter nonstop to San Francisco is now ready for boarding.
The planes were different. San Francisco skyline might have changed. 20 years had gone by. But I was following Carolyn, looking for her. And nothing could change that. Fairmount, please.
Hello. Ah, yes, sir. Welcome to the Fairmount.
Thank you. I have a reservation. My name is William Martin.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to speak to a Mr. Gallatin, please.
Mr. Gallatin?
I'm John Gallatin.
Bill Martin.
Ah, we've been expecting you.
Good.
Take care of Mr. Martin's luggage, will you, please?
Certainly.
Thank you.
We had a call from Sergeant Scott of the Los Angeles Police Department. Also one from Inspector DeBisi of our own San Francisco Police. How's it going?
It's going better than I expected. I found this registration card for May 16th through 18th, 1954. Carolyn Parker was here. She used her own name. She occupied the Cambridge suite.
Yes, that's a favorite suite. A beautiful view of the bay.
And here's another card for the next weekend, May 24th, 25th of 54. Again, she used her own name, occupied the same suite.
Well, now, as I understand it, you're trying to locate this woman. And so far, you found out that she spent 2 weekends here in 1954.
Yeah, I know. It doesn't sound like much. But will you take all the cards for both weekends and deliver them over to the San Francisco Police Department?
Every guest?
Yeah. They'll microfilm them and send the copies down to Sergeant Scott in Los Angeles.
Well, I suppose so.
I'm figuring that Carolyn Parker didn't come to San Francisco alone. And whomever she came with stayed at this hotel.
Just as I was looking for her now, she was looking for someone then. Had she found him here? Two weekends, 20 years ago. The Cambridge suite.
Wrong room number?
No, I know a girl that liked this suite.
We've only been here since Friday. Maybe you could try the desk.
Oh, it's been a lot longer than that. Excuse me.
Hello?
Mr. Martin, this is Inspector DeBisi, San Francisco Police Department.
Inspector Feldman and I are waiting in the lobby.
Fine, I'll be right there.
We checked out the St. Francis Hospital. It's a half a mile from the hotel. At 1 a.m. on May 19th, 1954, a young woman by the name of Mary Williams was treated in the emergency ward for what the interns on duty described as multiple bruises and possible concussion from a severe beating. X-rays ruled out the concussion, and she signed out against medical advice at 1:59 a.m. The personal information she gave turned out to be false.
Did she give a place of birth?
Yes, Darien, Connecticut.
Carolyn Parker was born in Darien. Her mother was killed in an accident when she was 18 months old. But her maiden name was Mary Williams. It fits.
We'll be at the cemetery shortly after dark.
Died June 1st, 1954.
That was about 3 weeks after the Parker girl went to St. Francis emergency.
Yeah, but she was back in San Francisco on the weekend of the 24th and 25th. How hard is it to get an exhumation order in the county of San Francisco?
Well, you need a reasonable explanation to take to a Superior Court judge.
How about examination of remains to determine the true identity?
All right. But who do we allege is buried in Sandra Clausen's grave?
Carolyn Parker.
So we're nowhere again. I figured that Carolyn Parker must have been fatally beaten and then buried under the name of Sandra Clausen. And Sandy and her husband paid off for the rest of their lives to keep quiet.
Yeah, well, that makes sense.
Yeah, but what's the sense of arranging for the phony burial of a girl that nobody's looking for in the first place? Miss, would you give me my bill? Mr. Martin on 318.
Certainly, sir.
Thank you.
Could I ask you a question?
Yeah, sure.
Now, you must have been a kid in high school when this girl was in the movies. Did you ever know her or anything?
No.
Well, how'd you get so involved? You know, you're laying your life on the line for her.
Yes,
Why?
Oh, yes, you're still here. Someone caught you just in time, sir.
Thank you. Hello?
You want to know what happened to Carolyn Parker in San Francisco, don't you?
Yes, do you know anything that can help me?
It'll cost you $5,000.
Well, I don't have that much in cash right now.
The banks are open until 3. Be in front of the 181 bar at 9. Come alone, or you'll never find out what you have to know.
Well, this could be a trap. That could be Waller's waiting for you instead of an old woman.
Yeah, but that was an old woman on the line. This might be just the break we're looking for.
We?
I didn't have an answer for that cop in San Francisco, but I didn't much care either. I had to find her.
Hello?
You're not sticking to the bargain, Martin. There are 3 San Francisco cops on your trail. The 2 detectives in the old car and a black policewoman across the street.
I didn't know about them. Have I blown the deal?
Not necessarily, but you gotta lose them or I won't feel safe.
If I lose them, maybe I won't feel safe.
It's up to you. All I want is the money.
All right, what do you want me to do now?
Go back up Powell and Market. Take the cable car. If the policewoman makes it, lose her. Drop off between Post and Sutter. There's a garage under Union Square. I'm out on Stockton.
What's the matter with that guy? It's like he's trying to get away from us.
Run across the street into Maiden Lane. There'll be a white 57 Chevy. Keys on the visor. Turn right on Grant. You'll be going the wrong way on a one-way street. The luck.
For just 1 second, I remembered that I had a round-trip plane ticket in my coat pocket.
Henry 100 to headquarters. We have lost contact with subject Martin. He is now driving a 1957 Chevrolet, white or off-white. Suspect Walters, 6'1" tall, weight 170 to 200, Caucasian. Walters is believed responsible for at least 2 homicides and should be considered extremely dangerous.
Yeah, Debussy.
Leave the car at 18th and Danvers and start walking.
What's that?
By the power given me by the Apostolic See, I grant you plenarian indulgence and the remission of all your sins. And I bless you in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Walters, you know you're dying. I need to have the name of Carolyn's lover. paying off Rideau and Sandy Clausen's husband.
Why did he beat her?
Jealous.
He must have known she had other romances. Was she trying to end it?
Was there another time he tried to beat her?
She got to Los Angeles before it happened.
She flew down to Los Angeles and Wilder followed her. To her house on Charmaine Way?
He must have been crazy. He called me. I helped him before when he was in trouble. But Carolyn made another phone call from her bedroom.
To her friend Sandra Clausen?
That's right. He saw her headlights on, motor running.
Come back!
He went straight for her car.
He saw a figure he thought was Carolyn.
I got there a few minutes later. Wilder had found Carolyn.
What really happened to Sandra Clausen's body?
Ocean.
How did Prideaux become involved?
Wilder. He had Prideaux take Carolyn to Mexico on a private plane. The hospital. She was there 2 years.
What about all the years since then?
Sanitariums.
And Wilder paid all the bills, huh?
Why didn't he just have you get rid of her?
Maybe because in his own strange way, he still loved her. And her mind?
In and out. Never the same again.
What about that old woman who telephoned me? Who is she?
Come along. Or you'll never find out what you have to know.
What have you got? Not me, our question document section. Those Fairmont registration cards cover 2 weekends in May of 1954. The guest called himself Ned Wilson. But our experts will testify in court that both are in the handwriting of Norman Wilder. Wait here, Judge. All right.
I want to see something happening. Something. I want some color. I want to see people moving around. You know what I want to see? I want to see this magic time up on that screen. Do you understand?
Mr. Wilder?
Yeah. Oh. Excuse me a moment. Couldn't you possibly have waited for me in my office?
Not in a felony arrest, Mr. Wilder. You are charged with violations of the Penal Code. Sections 187, 182, 217. Murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and assault with intent to murder.
You think you're going to prove that in a court of law? There'll be half a dozen lawyers waiting for me in that courthouse.
You probably can afford them. It's my duty to advise you. You have the right to remain silent, the right to counsel at all stages of the proceedings against you.
Where is Carolyn Parker?
She's on television tonight. In one of the finest pictures I ever made.
You weren't really angry with him. You've been wanting to slug somebody ever since you left the beach.
What happened at the beach had nothing to do with it. This guy asked for it. I've had 100 fights like this.
Are you proud of it?
I was sorry there was no way of saying goodbye to Carolyn Parker. Or was there?
I was born when she kissed me. Died when she left me. I lived a few weeks while she loved me. Like it?
What is it?
I want to put it in the script. I don't know quite where.
Feel well now?
I don't know. Maybe. Stay back. I got a few hours time.
Who were you expecting to find here? Carolyn Parker.